Amen. We've been wrestling with verse 25 and 26 of Luke 21, trying to understand how we're supposed to see the heavens and the heavens here, the sun, moon and stars, distress of nations, men's hearts failing them, and the powers of heaven. We've already seen, hopefully that you can all agree, that verse 26, the failing of the hearts of men, because what they see coming upon the earth is connected to the powers of heaven. Hopefully we're okay with that. Then we've seen that the powers of heaven are going to be shaken at the voice of God. And I think we've done that here, this study here. And we proof text that from the Bible when we did that. So I'm making the assertion that verse 26 is in the history of the plagues. Does anybody have any comment on that? Either you agree or you disagree? My brother? You agree? Sister? Yeah? So everybody agree that verse 26 is talking about the plagues. It's at the very end. So we're trying to understand how we deal with the distress of nations. We've already said that, according to our study, that the distress of nations down here is going to be 1840. It appears that that's what it's going to be. I want to go back to Loughborough's work. But before we do that, let me check if I want to go somewhere else first. Okay, now we'll go back to Loughborough's work, and this is GSAM, page 2. We picked up from page 270, paragraph 4. That's where we picked his work up. It's just here. We've seen in 1848 there are 3 things happening. What are the 3 things? Brilliant. Oh, you weren't here yesterday, so you don't know. My brother?
There is a revolution in Europe or confusion in Europe.
There's something happening in Europe, in the political world. Do you know the other 2? My brother?
The concept of spiritualism.
Spiritualism, which is in the moral world, and one more. No one can remember?
The bad angel, they are Adventist, Christianity published articles about the bad angels. Message.
Okay, so there's the issue about the third angel. This is 270.4. The year 1848 was memorable, not only in Adventist history, but politically. The truths of the third angel's message were very well defined, and the way was opening in different directions for the advancement of the work. At this time, events in the moral and political world were assuming a shape calculated to arouse anew the attention of the students of prophecy. So these students of prophecy are not just Adventists who believed the third angel's message, they're all students of prophecy. Not only was there great confusion among the nations of the old world, but in Hadesville, Wayne County, New York, began the manifestations of moral this is 270.4, began the manifestations of modern spiritualism which Bible students said must be the spirits of devils which are to gather the nations of the earth to the battle of the day of the Lord. And what are they quoting there? Revelation
20 verse 2.
Revelation 20. Yeah. Are you happy it's not Revelation 20?
16, 14.
Yeah.
It's the source of Revelation 28. 20. They are quoting 16 verse 14.
Sixteen 14 and 16 16. So I'm not sure they're not quoting a Bible verse per se, are they? So I think she's just quoting what they're saying. I don't think she's actually literally quoting the Bible verse. It's not King James anyway, but it is Revelation 16. So the Adventists, they know that is not what's happening. So these students of prophecy are not Adventists particularly in this verse. Next paragraph, 271.1. So we read this one, 21st of February 1848. This is Louis Philippe of France. He's going to start having some favour, or look in favour, with the papists, and the people of France are going to rebel against that. There's going to be an uprising, and they say down with the Pope and down with the King, and so he has to flee for his life. Then 271.2, she lists a number of countries: Prussia, Hanover, which is Germany, Sardinia, Sicily, Naples, Venice, Lombardy, Tuscany, and Rome. So he says other countries, but there are actually other cities that he's named there. Next paragraph. Many of the Adventist ministers who had not yet heard of the third angel's message saw this confusion and supposed it to be the rallying of the nations for the battle of the great day of God Almighty. So that's Revelation 16, 13 to 15. We've marked that. Then if we're finally settled onto who these people are, either they've not heard what's going on, or they're the first day Adventists. The reason why it would seem that they're the first day Adventists is because in 270.4 it says the truth of the third angel's message was now well defined. So if it's well defined, what would that indicate? This is 270.4, second sentence. The truths of the third angel's message were he actually says, were very well defined.
Well stated.
Sorry?
Well stated.
Well stated. Mature. So if they're mature, the indication would be that it's not just a limited group of people who understand the third angel's message. For us to have a mature message, if we were to use that phrase today and we said we had a mature message, what would we be thinking that meant?
It means that it has been proclaimed and now people understand what it means.
So it means it's been proclaimed or studied and people generally understand it. So for us to argue that there are ministers, and if we take the word minister to mean what most of us would understand, which would be a teacher or a preacher, how could it be that an Adventist preacher who was part of the people who had come out of 1844 studied for the last 4 years and they still hadn't heard of the third angel's message yet? It seems a bit unusual that they would be part of that group. Then if we can sort of see that, if you've got a very mature message. So there's some of the reasons why people are saying that these Adventist ministers are not the ones who are part of Ellen White's group. They're another group of people, probably First Day Adventists. Next paragraph. Just at this time, the Seventh-day Adventists were learning from the Scriptures that the Sabbath of the fourth commandment was the sign or seal of the living God, and that the time had arrived for the proclamation of the sealing message of Revelation 10. So, I don't know if you see that as a sort of a contradictory statement. Paragraph 4, he says, the truths of the third angel were very well defined. And then it says, just at this time, 1848, they're just discovering what?
It's time for the proclamation.
Just at this time, the Seventh-day Adventists were learning from the Scriptures that the Sabbath of the fourth commandment was the sign or seal of the living God, and that the time had arrived for the proclamation of the sealing message of Revelation 10 verses 1 to 4. So they're just learning about the third angel being the seal or the sign, and that they need to start proclaiming this, Revelation 10. So is that a contradictory statement? Or is it in agreement with paragraph 4? Paragraph 4 says the truths are well defined. Now it says they're just learning that it's the sign or the seal. Brother? Yes, what? Oh, is it a contradictory statement, or do you concede those two fit together? A well-defined understanding of the third angel, and now they're just beginning to learn. I don't want to say put the word beginning. Just at this time, they were learning that it's the seal.
So when we first got the Sabbath in 1846, they never realized that Sabbath was the seal, was the sign of that. Of course, many Adventists started keeping the Sabbath. Of course, they referred to the 10th commandment, but they would have not have arrived in the 7th, which is here quoted of the 10th. So we can argue that the better, of course, the angel is standing one leg here and one leg on the sea. Could mean also the proclamation of the sign of God in the Sabbath. They had an idea of Sabbath being received by what is the full context. So in 1848, this is the time they now realize that, of course, Sabbath is the seal of God. They just carried that from one of the 10 commandments in 1846 onward.
Anyone else? Your brother?
Okay, I will base my point on what he says. That when the first learned the Sabbath, they were just to know that Sabbath exists in God has never removed Sabbath. It was a man that removed the Sabbath, but now they begin to understand, they begin to offend that they have been to the grace of God's law. But when it comes to 1848, they learn that this truth is not only vital, but it is a sealing that God will seal his people.
Okay, it's also argue as they are There is a difference between learning how the city is and keeping the Sabbath itself. So, just before 1848, they are doing what they were describing, that they were keeping the Sabbath, but they did not understand that it was a sealing message. So they understood it later in 1848 that it was a sealing message, and therefore they started to proclaim it.
It seems to me when he says it was very well defined, I'm not sure if that's factually correct. When did they start keeping the Sabbath sunset to sunset? Who worked that out for them?
Yeah, Bates.
Was it Bates?
Yeah.
I thought it was Andrews, that's the only reason I was asking. Are we sure it's Bates?
Bates.
Yeah?
This was for 6 to 6, and then someone else came in sunset.
I thought it was Andrews that came up with sunset to sunset. If it was Andrews, Andrews meets Ellen White and James White, I think it's in 53. It's quite late that he meets them. So to say something's well defined and you're not even keeping it from sunset to sunset, which seems pretty fundamental to me, I don't know how accurate it would be to say well defined. Okay, so in this paragraph it talks about the First Day Adventists. The First Day Adventists saying you're too late with your sealing message because the Battle of Armageddon is already coming right upon us. It's already starting. So we discussed yesterday the proclamation of the sealing message of Revelation 10, 1-4. And there are some people who think that the plates were burnt in one of the fires, and therefore when they reproduced the plates, they've made a typo, and this should be Revelation 7, 1-4, and not Revelation 10, 1-4. So has anybody changed their position or thought more about that?
Revelation.
Sorry?
Must be Revelation 7.
It must be Revelation 7. Yeah? My brother?
Yeah. The sealing, of course, we find it in the 27. But to me,
Can you just speak a little bit slower? I don't...
Revelation 10, 1-4 talks about an angel from heaven whose fruit is on the land and on the sea. And to me, this is not a Bible because of the proclamation here. The seal of God had to be proclaimed from here to there. So I think it's not a Bible answer to this to me.
It's not
It's not an error.
Okay, it's Revelation 10.
Because of the proclamation, even if we don't see sealing in the 10, but that sealing has to be proclaimed far and wide.
My sister?
I think it's a typing error.
You think it's a typing error?
Revelation 7, because in the subsequent paragraphs, you keep seeing them quoting Revelation 7.
In the paragraphs that are going to come afterwards?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because like in paragraph 273, page 273, paragraph 2, you see that they had some meeting. And before the meeting commenced, some of us were examining some of the points in the sealing message. Some difference of opinion existed about the correctness of the view of the word ascending. And where we get the word ascending is in Revelation 7. Some other paragraph. Oh, yeah.
270.4?
4.2.
The angels are... Okay, so we'll read those in a second. So you've got some dialogue that's happening that you think gives us some evidence. Brother Robert?
I tend to agree with you.
You agree with...
I can see the discussion here about Revelation 7.
So you think it's a typo as well? Brother Rogers? You think it's a typo? Anyone else?
I would support her because I also saw the same thing. There is even a quote that someone is flattering them, telling them that it will take 144,000 years to create the article. So the wording from this dialogue is from Revelation chapter 7. You can see when the 4 winds there have been restrained.
Okay, so let's read on then. Turmoil suddenly quieted down, 272.3. Some 3 months later, the outburst among the nations quieted down, not however by a settlement of their grievances, but in a manner that journalists themselves could not explain. Of this trouble, this person in a newspaper said, "It was a great wonder to us all what started so suddenly, that confusion among the nations, but it is a greater wonder still what stopped it." So it starts suddenly and then it stops suddenly. Next paragraph. We came down to 1851 and find Senator Currat in a speech before the United States Congress referring to the state of affairs in the old world and saying, "What that state and aspect exactly is that shadows, clouds, and darkness appear to rest upon, you entirely appreciate. How wholly unsettled it has seemed to me, as if the prerogatives of crowns and the rights of men and the hoarded up resentments of thousands of years were about to unsheath the sword for a conflict in which blood shall flow, as in apocalyptic vision to bridles of the horses." That's Revelation 14. "And in which a whole race of men shall pass away, in which the great bell of time shall sound out another hour, in which society itself shall be tried by fire and steel, whether it be of nature and of nature's God or not." So this is 1851. He's just commenting on the situation that's going on in Europe. 273.1. While those claiming that this stir among the nations in 1848 was to usher in the coming of the Lord met with a sad disappointment, how was it with Seventh-day Adventists who claimed that the time had now come for the seal of the living God, Revelation 7, we're saying that's Revelation 7:2, to be presented to the people? In reply, we quote from a tract published by Elder Joseph Bates in the month of January 1849, in speaking of a circumstance that occurred November 18th, 1848. He says, we'll read what he says in the moment. So, it talks about here the presentation or the proclamation of the seal of the living God. And the seal of the living God seems to be a quote from Revelation 7:2, which seems to indicate that it's not Revelation 10 that's being discussed there, it's Revelation 7. Next paragraph. A small company of brethren and sisters were assembled in a meeting in Dorchester near Boston, Massachusetts. Before the meeting commenced, some of us were examining some of the points in the sealing message. Some difference of opinion existed about the correctness of the view of the word ascending. And whereas we had made the publishing of the message a subject of prayer at the Topson Main Conference a little previous, and the way to publish appeared not sufficiently clear, we therefore resolved unitedly to refer it all to God. After some time in earnest prayer for light and instruction, God gave Sister White the following in vision. We quote the words as they were spoken by her in vision. So now he's going to quote what Ellen White says in a vision. And this is in November 1848. And where's the one that comes from early writings? That's December 16th. Remember, that was December 16th. Just want to go back to the biography. We read this. 154 paragraph 1. Don't turn there, I'm just going to read this. In the vision in Dorchester on November the 18th, there was a call for publishing the third angel's message. Now 3 weeks later, on the evening of the Sabbath at Rocky Hill, Connecticut, Ellen White was again in vision. This one clarified the interpretation of Matthew 24 verses 29 and 30. Then that's the Ellen White quote when she says, December 16th, 1848, the Lord gave me a view of the shaking of the powers of heaven. So she has a vision on November the 18th, which was a call for publishing the third angel's message. We read that. So coming back to what he's talking about, 273.1, it says Joseph Bates, January 1849, wrote a little tract, and in that tract he was speaking about what happened on November the 18th. And November the 18th, he said, we were in Dorchester, and there was a meeting about, he talks about it being the meeting about the sealing, where they're discussing points of the sealing, and Ellen White says she had a vision then talking about publishing the third angel's message. So now we're in 274 paragraph 1. Oh, no, before we go that, let's go back to what Sister Joy was telling us. It says, correctness of the view of the word ascending. So it's not in proper quotation marks. But if you're going to pick up that word and say that it's a Bible verse, this is Revelation chapter 7 as well. So it seems to be about Revelation 7 when they talk about the sealing. Anything else so far? No? So we're going to go to 274 paragraph 1. This is the vision that she receives in November the 18th. By the way, I don't know if you've tried to search for this vision. This is not a Spirit of Prophecy quote. So this is not Spirit of Prophecy. This is Joseph Bates and his writing down of what she said in the vision. I haven't been able to find a record that this is exactly what she said. Does that make sense? So if you go to early writings, 41, she says, I had this vision and this is what God showed me. So that's Ellen White telling you what she saw in vision, which is in December 16th. The November the 18th one, there's no record that of what she said in that vision, as far as I can find. It's not an Ellen White statement. So even though it's in quotation marks and it says this is what she said in vision, this is Bates' work, not Ellen White's work. Does that make sense? And maybe someone could find this that she actually says, but I've not been able to find that. So this is Bates speaking. Where did the light break out? Let thine angel teach us where the light broke out. It commenced from a little when thou didst give one light after another. The testimony and commandments are linked together. They cannot be separated. That comes first, the 10 Commandments by God. He was well pleased when his law began to come up in strength, and the waste places began to be built up. Out of weakness it has become strong from searching his word. The test upon it has been but a short time. It's the seal. It's coming up. It arises, commencing from the rising of the sun. Like the sun, first cold grows warmer and sends its rays. When the truth arose, there was but little light in it, but it has been increasing. Oh, the power of these rays, it grows in strength. The greatest weight and light is on that truth, for it lasts forever. When the Bible is not needed, it arose there in the east. It began with a small light, but its beams are healing. Oh, how mighty is that truth! It's the highest after they enter the goodly land, but it will increase till they are made immortal. It commenced from the rising of the sun, keeps on its course like the sun, but it never sets. So, some comment on that. What things are we seeing here?
I think if you read that quotation, again you see the language of Revelation 7.
Okay, so we can see Revelation 7. Can people see Revelation 7 there? What can you see from Revelation 7?
We see the rising of there is ascending of something, ascending
Ascending from the east.
Yeah.
So read that verse. Which verse? Verse 2. So if you read it.
And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God. And he cried with a loud voice to the four angels, to whom it was given to hurt the heart and the sea, saying, hurt not the heart, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have seen the servants of our God in their foreheads.
So it talks about the angel ascending from the east. In this passage, what's ascending from the east?
Sun.
Here it's talking about the sun. And it says the sun is rising and rising. What else do we see?
See the law of God.
The law of God? Where do we see the law of God? That comes first, the 10 Commandments by God. He was well pleased when his law began to come up in strength, and the waste places began to be built up. What's that? So that's Isaiah 58. So we've got, if we trust Bates, and he's writing down of the vision, it's not an Ellen White quote, remember, that when his law began to come up in strength, that's when the waste places began to be built up. And she says, that comes first, the 10 Commandments. Oh, the testimony and the commandments are linked together. They cannot be separated. What comes first? The testimony or the commandments? So the commandments come first. What is the testimony? Sorry? The prophets. So if we're going to look at this, we're saying that's her ministry. Is that what we're saying? So first the 10 Commandments, then her ministry.
There is the seal also.
The what?
Seal.
The seal.
Yeah, seal is coming up and the angel is coming again with the seal. The seal.
The test upon it has been but a short time. It's the seal. It's coming up. That? It arises commencing from the rising of the sun. So the thing that's arising is the seal. The seal is arising. Yeah? And it says the test upon it has been but a short time. 4 years, I guess. Like the sun, first cold, grows warmer and sends its rays. When that truth arose, there was but little light in it, but it has been increasing. Oh, the power of these rays, it grows in strength. The greatest weight and light is on that truth, for it lasts forever, when the Bible is not needed. When will the Bible not be needed? Brother Andrew, when will the Bible not be needed? In heaven? The Bible won't be needed in heaven. It arose there in the east. It began with a small light, but its beams are healing. Oh, how mighty is that truth! It is the highest after they enter the goodly land. Brother Andrew, what's the goodly land that they're going to enter into? Into heaven. But it will increase till they are made immortal. It commenced from the rising of the sun, keeps on its course like the sun, but it never sets. So the Sabbath truth, the sealing truth, is going to begin to arise in 1844, and it never stops. It rises and rises until this truth takes us where? Into the goodly land. Anything else we see from this passage?
I think something else we can see from this paragraph is the progressive unsealing of light. The way Page frames it is like when the light was coming, it was in a small light, but it keeps on increasing its strength. So I think this is the progressive unsealing of light.
Anyone else?
Because we can see the work of subline, the work of the third element of the second apology for
I can't hear you so well, please.
I was saying we can also see the work of the third element and how it's as the progressive and seeing of the third element is like from 22nd October to the second October.
Okay. If we go to Revelation 7, and we know that they're quoting from 7. It has all this language here. We read a moment ago the ascending, which was verse 2. We'll read a bit more before we go back to 7. And unless anyone's got any more comments on this paragraph.
I would also say that the first line that says, "Let thy angel teach us where the light broke out." And here in verse 7, you can see that the angel is going to cry. It's a symbol of a release of a message.
Okay, so where did it first break out?
When they saw the sign of that angel coming with the sea. And from the Bible, he is going to cry, but here he is using the word that let thy angel teach us. So the angel is releasing a message.
Okay, so where did the light break out? Let the angel teach us where the light broke out.
Yeah.
Where did it break out?
When he was ascending from the east, and this light is the message of the Sabbath. And so it is the angel who is going to cry. Here you can see that he cried with a loud voice. So I'm trying to see like it's a release of a message.
He's trying to see?
The angel who is teaching us from the quote, it's the same angel who is crying, he is releasing that sealing message.
Okay, I understand that. I guess my question, she asked the question, where did the light break out? And it says, the angel will teach us.
I think that's a rhetorical question because he is asking and he is the one who is giving.
So my question is, what is the answer that she's giving?
The answer is saying that let the angel teach us where the light broke out.
And where did it break out?
From the east.
From the east. Anyone else?
Yeah, from the east, that's the direction. And then, yeah, where? It's from the east. It's not when.
It's where, not when. She doesn't give any when in all of this. It's all about where. We say when the when is. She's not saying when the when is. She's just saying where it is.
So it's from the east.
Anyone else?
So if I'm understanding that sentence, it says, let the angel teach us where the light broke out. It commences from a little. So what is the it? Tend to think the it there refers for the breaking out of the light.
Yep.
So
the it is the light.
Yeah.
Yes?
So it commences from a little. When thou didst give one light after another, then it says, so I think if you continue reading, I think it starts from the 10 Commandments and Pentecost.
I think it comes from the east because if you go down there, there's light and now the light comes to how the sun comes, and the sun always normally rises from the east. And he has said here, as the sun rises, and there's no other direction that it rises from.
Yeah, if we look a little bit down, it says, It arose there in the east. It began with a small light. And if you compare that with the upper one, it also says it commenced from a little when it introduced the one light after another.
You can say the east, you understand the east is in allusion to the sun, and she's using the sun as a symbol to represent. If you go back, it's the sea, and then if you go further back, it will be the law, and then if you go further back, it will be the Ten Commandments. So I would suggest the Ten Commandments was she uses the sun to represent these Ten Commandments.
Any other comments? Okay, so we'll read the next paragraph. The angels are holding the four winds. It is God that restrains the powers. The angels have not let go, for the saints are not all sealed. When Michael stands up, this trouble will be all over the earth. Why then? Why? They are just ready to blow. There's a check put on because the saints are not sealed. Yea, publish the things which thou hast seen and heard, and the blessing of God will attend. Look ye, that rising is in strength and grows brighter and brighter. Someone want to comment on that? Brother Cephas.
So I think this is referring to the restraint that is put on the shaking nations of Europe that was happening. It's referring to the restraint, the holding of the four winds is the restraint by God upon the shaking of the nations of Europe that was taking place at that time to allow the work of the Father to continue.
Okay. Right there, that.
I think it's a sealing message.
What is the sealing message?
Because it says the angel have not let go for the saints and also.
And not?
All sealed.
And they're not all sealed?
I think the first sentence that says the angels are holding the four winds is God that restrains the power. The angels are not let go, for the saints are not all sealed. When you go to the Bible, Revelation 7 from verse 1, it says, and after these things I saw four angels. So these are the four angels that are holding the four winds. And they are holding, now that he's explaining and telling us it is God who is holding these four winds. You consider that borrowed the quote was from Revelation 7.
If you read that paragraph, it says, I want to pick a phrase. The angels are holding the four winds. It is God that restrains the power. That phrase, I think, is the very same phrase you find in Handwritings, 38, paragraph 2.
38.
Paragraph 2. That phrase, it is God that restrains the powers.
So 38 is the same section with 36, which is Revelation 11:18, the sealing. And it says, I asked my companion angel the meaning of what I had heard and what the four angels were about to do. He said to me that it was God that restrained the powers, and that he gave his angels charge over the things on the earth, and that the four angels had power from God to hold the four winds, and that they were about to let them go. So this vision is given on January the 5th, 1849. It says it in 36.1. At the commencement of the Holy Sabbath, January 5th, 1849, we engaged in prayer in Brother Belden's family with brother in Rocky Hill, Connecticut, and the Holy Ghost fell upon us. I was taken off in vision to the most holy place where I saw Jesus interceding for Israel. So she's using the same phrase there. Did you want to comment any more, to make any more connection, or just that? Sorry?
I just want to convert.
Okay. So let's just do a timeline. This struggle in Europe, the date that he gives us is what? What date did he give us? Was it February? So he gives us February the 21st. If you go to Wikipedia, I think it gives us February the 23rd, which is about right, because February the 21st, he's saying my kingdom is secure. The next day he's running, which would be the 22nd, and Wikipedia marking the 23rd. So I'll just read a little bit from Wikipedia. The revolutions of 1848, known in some countries as the Spring of Nations, People's Spring, Springtime of the Peoples, or the Year of Revolution, were a series of political upheavals throughout Europe in 1848. It remains the most widespread revolution wave in European history. The revolutions were essentially democratic and liberal in nature, with the aim of removing the old monarchical structures and creating independent nation states. What does it mean, creating independent nation states, when it says to getting rid of the monarchies? The monarchies is not just about kings and queens. It's not like you're the say you're the king of one country and you're the king of another country. Those kings ruled multiple nations, which they knew were separate states. Like Prussia wasn't just one country. I think it was multiple national states. So they want to, if you get rid of the king, each country can do its own thing. The revolution spread across Europe after the initial revolution began in France in February. Over 50 countries were affected, but with no significant coordination or cooperation among their respective revolutionaries. So it says it began in France, which is what Brother Roger said the other day, yesterday I think it was. But in Encyclopedia Britannica, it says it begins in Sicily. But it doesn't really do much in Sicily. It goes from Sicily and it seems to jump straight to France by February. Some of the major contributing factors were widespread disaffection with political leadership, demands for more participation in government and democracy, and demands for freedom of the press. Other demands made by the working class, the upsurge of nationalism, and the regrouping of established government forces. So the reason why it's important to know this, because I see people smiling, what does this sound like? If we talk about the press, the demands of the working class, the upsurge of nationalism, and the regrouping of established government forces, what does this sound like? Someone said something? I heard someone's voice over there. You didn't say anything.
I did, but
you don't. You can't what?
I recant.
You recant. So Brother Robert said Trump. I don't know what other people think. We're all talking about revolutions, aren't we? And it seems to me to have characteristics, and to Brother Robert, of things that are going on currently, even if it's not just specifically Trump.
I think currently in the world you can see the same thing.
Sorry?
In the world you can see the same thing growing with nationalism within the countries of Europe. America, and particularly what they are angered about is that wealth is concentrated on a small class of people. So it's around the same issues that are currently affecting the world.
Yeah, so I guess the reason why you backed out of Trump, because it's not just Trump, it's happening everywhere, in South America, in Europe, and North America. The uprising was led by ad hoc coalitions or reformers. What does ad hoc mean? Unofficial? Temporary? Not premeditated? Not directed? Not coordinated? The middle classes were led by ad hoc coalitions of reformers, the middle classes and workers, which did not hold together for long. Tens of thousands of people were killed and many more were forced into exile. Significant lasting reforms including the abolition of serfdom in Austria and Hungary and the end of absolute monarchy in Denmark and the introduction of representative democracy in the Netherlands. The revolutions were most important in France, the Netherlands, the states of the German Confederation that would make up the German Empire in the late 19th and early 20th century, Italy and the Austrian Empire. Does anybody know anything else about these revolutions?
I think the little knowledge I know is that year of revolution, 2 nations escaped in Europe.
So there's 2 nations that escape in Europe. Does anybody know the 2 nations before Brother Roger tells us?
Russia and Britain.
Sorry?
Russia and Britain.
It's not you, because that's you already knew. So Russia and the UK, Great Britain. Do you know why?
But I think, like, when we study about Constantinople, there is something we study about the Eastern Orthodox Church, who are Sabbath keepers. I think they can be traced up to Russia. And that's one of the things that makes Russia to escape. And I think the United Kingdom, in the East of the Dark Ages, they support the Reformed Church. This is where we get the Pilgrim Fathers giving the Church of England and going to the United States. I think this may be contributing factors why they escaped this revolution.
There's something unique about Russia and the UK, and it's to do with the churches that are formed there. So you've got the Russian Orthodox Church, and you've got, I don't know if you want to call them the Protestants or the Reformers in the UK. They seem to have some kind of influence that protected those countries. And so they're the 2 countries that escaped, the ones that furthest east and the one that's furthest west. Both of those countries escaped pretty unscathed from all of this. Okay, so we'll pull out of that. So this is in the spring of 1848. I don't know if you remember, it said the Spring Revolution. We also had a Spring Revolution, didn't we? What year did we have our Spring Revolution in the Middle East?
2011.
So this is 2011. So we know that that's significant. Why? Why is that significant? Why is 2011 significant?
The beginning of the Syrian revolution, the proxy war in our history.
So it begins
It
begins the proxy war in our history. Anything else? So even though we may not understand all the intricacies of something, one thing that I don't know if I should say have learnt, but it's something that I believe in, is that you've probably heard a term where people say that the lines triumph or trump inspiration. Is that a phrase that people use here in Kenya, or you've heard? Yeah. So yes. Sorry. Repeat. So if you have 2 options, You say Spirit of Prophecy says no public evangelism, and in the line of Christ he says no public evangelism, and then we take the line of Christ and bring it into our line upon line. Therefore we say the lines teach us, or the line of Christ teaches us, that we don't do public evangelism, even though Ellen White tells us to do it. So people turn around and say the line is triumphing or is superior to inspiration. So I don't know if you, so you've all sort of, most of you have assented that you have that similar problem here. I'm not saying I agree with that, but I understand why people would think that. So the only comment I want to make is that even if we don't understand things, I think we should rely upon the structures. If they show us something, that we should believe what they teach us, the structure of our lines, and then afterwards I think the understanding comes. Does that make sense? Yeah? So just as an example, we used to teach that the foundations of our message began to be laid at 9/11. Is that right? Yeah?
Yes.
And then it began to be taught that they ended in 2014. And then it began to be taught that actually it wasn't 2001, but it was in 2004 that they began to be taught. Why did they pick the year 2004? Why was 2004 selected as the beginning of the foundations being laid, not 2001? Sorry?
It was the first camp meeting done in English.
It was the first camp meeting done in English.
That's where the message that had been laid earlier was summarized.
So this is when all these messages before were put together. The purpose of that camp meeting was to consolidate the work and put it all into one place, so everybody could to know essentially what our message is, and you could go to one set of presentations to do that. It was in the glorious stand that happened. We know that 2001 wasn't recognised in 2001. It was sometime after that. It wasn't too far from 2004. So we saw 2004, and then people said 2004 to 2014 is a 10-year period. So what was happening for these 3 years? Brother William, what was happening for these 3 years?
I think from 2001 to 2004 there are meetings going on, but they are not published in English. So in 2004 is when we have the first English camp meeting, and the whole summary of the message from the English in 2004. They make a summary of the whole message.
But there were meetings going on before 2001. There were meetings going on before 2001.
Yeah, but in those meetings, the way I understand it, they are not recorded in English. They're in Spanish.
Okay, that's what I mean. Those Spanish meetings were before 2001. The Spanish meetings, as an example, were before 2001. What we're marking in this during this period, these 3 years, besides the fact that we're saying they're not in English.
You mean what is happening in the history of, in terms of prophecy? What is the?
We'll go with the history, then the prophecy. I thought you were going to give us the answer.
I wanted to understand, what do you mean by what is happening?
I guess my primary answer is, because I thought you were going to give some answer, is the prophecy. What's the prophetic justification to have this 3 years here? What's it doing for us?
I think if you look at our reform, that 3-year period can be seen. For example, 1989, where we mark the first angel's message coming, which is supposed to be succeeded by an increase of knowledge, but the increase of knowledge comes 3 years later.
So it's like a progressive history where something which was supposed to happen in 1889 is progressively happening within a 3-year period.
So you want to mark 92 or 91?
91.
Which is 2 years.
92, we normally mark 92, but yeah, it's normally 91, 92, around that period.
Okay.
So if you go to 1798, we have 1788 to 1800, taking away of the papacy. It's a progressive process that is happening there. And it's 3 years. So
1798 to?
You can have 1776 when Napoleon comes in, 1787 when they enter into the Treaty of Tolentino, and then 1788. Or others have it as 1788 to 1800. 1788, the Pope is taken captive. 1800, he dies. 1799, he dies. 1800, the People's Days are restored. So I will go with 1776 to 1788. So you can see that 3-year period.
So they're all 2-year periods, so you're making 3 years.
Okay.
But
I don't know exclusively. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm only picking that up so we all see that. I hate it when we do that. We go to all these examples and we say it's 3 years, and we're going to say inclusive. And then this one, I'm saying, well, why is this one not inclusive?
Okay, so my point is...
I agree with you. I'm not arguing that you're wrong.
Normally when we're dealing with these lines, you notice that there's some period of time that normally... For example, if you go to Millerite history, the foundations, 1840. But normally what we reference as the foundations is the church. And it is put in 1842, which is inclusively 3 years later. So there's that 3 years.
So you gave us at 1989, 1776, 1796, 1798, and 1840. Is that right?
Yeah.
1796 and 1798. 1, 2, 3, 4 examples, and they're all 2 years, which would make 3 years to make it match with this one.
Yeah, it makes me think that that 3-year period is significant, and its significance is like it's teaching us that something takes off progressively rather than instantly.
I just don't like the way that all the 4 examples are 2-year periods, and we just want to make it 3 to fit. So that's what you're doing, isn't it?
Yeah, and you can also go to 126.
Into what?
The 126. You can have 1860, 1863. You can have 1888 and 1888 and 1891 when Jones goes to stand before the Senate.
What's 1860?
The organization, the official organization of the church, the process begins in 1860 or 61. It begins around that point.
Okay. So if we put 2011 here, someone say something? So we've got 2011, and you've got 3 years here. And so that's 7. So, as you say, there's a chiasm here. So, would these 3 years be teaching us something as well? We're not sure what all.
I think it will be teaching us the progressive completion of the foundations from 2011 to 2014.
So if that's the progressive completion, then that must mean...
But at the beginning, we have a 3-year period. That is, prophecy shows us that the foundations begin in 2001, but we are saying historically, we are marking it to begin in 2004. I would expect to see the same scenario at the end, where we have 2014 as what we are marking at the end of the foundations, but in real sense, it happens before. Just like it was supposed to begin 2001, but we're marking it 2004. So
we can explain the foundations being laid from 2001 to 2014, or 2004 to 2014, or 2001 to 2011, depending on the point that we wanted to make. Okay, I can't remember why I went there. Okay, so When did they, this happens in February 1848. So it's February 1848. And the people, so in this history, I don't know how long it takes them to understand. So this is the spring of 48. And the people are saying, this is the prelude to Armageddon. And we're saying, this is not. What we need to do is to publish the sealing message, third angel's message. So we already know that we're going to publish the third angel's message in the spring of 1848. But it's only, when is this vision? In November. It's only in November that Ellen White has a vision on this subject. And if you go to the first biography statement, it says, in the vision in Dorchester, November the 18th, there was a call for publishing the third angel's message. And 3 weeks later, she's going to explain what it is. So they're going to start publishing, or they have the discussion about publishing, before she has the vision on that. Next paragraph, 274, paragraph 3. The vision's now ended. After coming out of this vision, Mrs. White said to her husband, I have a message for you. You must begin to print a little paper and send it out to the people. Let it be small at first, but as the people read, they will send you means with which to print, and it will be a success from the first. From this small beginning, it was shown to me to be like streams of light that went clear around the world. So in November, she says we need to start a magazine. And in the earlier part of the year, in the spring, which is 272 paragraph 2, just at that time the Seventh-day Adventists were learning from the scriptures that the Sabbath of the fourth commandment was the sign or seal of the living God, and at that time, and that the time had arrived for the proclamation of the sealing message, and they were devising ways of getting this message before the people. So they're already starting to talk about giving the third angel's message out in the spring, and they still haven't had the vision about the paper yet. Just want to make sure that we see that. And where are we? Last paragraph. These predictions were made in 1848 concerning the rise and spread of the Sabbath truth. To look at the situation from a human standpoint at that time, reason would say that prediction can never be fulfilled. One man remarked to one of our labourers soon after the prediction was made, "It will take you 144,000 years to do what you propose." What, they would say, 3 preachers, Elder White, his wife, and Elder Bates, all penniless and with less than 100 adherents, all of whom are destitute of money, going forth with a few hundred copies of an 8-page tract on the Sabbath question to give a warning message to the world. Preposterous assumption. While those who thus reasoned said impossible, faith in the message and the testimony of assured success said, "In the name of Israel's God it will be done, and trusting in his strength it must be done." So I was speaking to someone yesterday. It seems to me we're in a similar situation. Then if we see that there's this rise of populism, I keep on saying it like Trump does. Popularism, it's the wrong way. That these revolutions are happening, and if we see that how is this little movement not only going to take over the world, if that's even the right way of saying it, or give a message to the world, how are we even going to engage with the church? The church doesn't even see us or recognise us. And the church is only a little blip in the whole structure of the world. So I thought that was quite interesting. So I want to ask, how are the Millerites and how is Ellen White viewing Revelation 7? What's the structure that they have for Revelation 7? Where does it begin? Verse 2. The angel ascending out of the east. Where would we mark that? My brother?
1848.
Sorry?
1848.
So you'd mark it 1848. My brother? The same? My brother? 1844. My brother? What's that? 1844. Why not 1848?
Based upon the reading we had at 74.1, the question is asked where did the light break out? She refers us to the Ten Commandments, and I believe we had an understanding of the Ten Commandments of October 27.
You said 1848?
Yeah.
Why 1848?
This is the time they understand that the Sabbath is the sealing message, so they are going now to preach the sealing message of the people. Glory to come in 1844.
So, when you say the sealing message came in 44, now is when they're going to proclaim it.
They are now going to have understanding that this Sabbath that came in 1844 is the sealing message. So they are going to give it from 1848. This is where they start that in the beginning.
Okay, so they're going to start proclaiming it in 48. Yeah. But I guess my question was, where do we see that their understanding of Revelation 7 would fit in on a line? And you're saying
your understanding is 1848.
It would start. So the angel, and I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God. So all of that is 1848, where he begins to ascend. Yeah? My brother?
Okay, according to it's 1847.
Sorry?
1847.
1847?
Yes.
Why 1847?
So in 1847 there is a vision that Ellen White is given on Sabbath. It was on Sabbath, they gathered on Sabbath. And then he was shown the Ten Commandments, and then the Sabbath had the halo of glory. This is early writing, page 32.
My brother?
1844.
Why 1844?
Because this is where the Millerites entered the God. Christ is the most holy place, and that's why we find the law of God. And because we already said the east is the law of God, or the commandment, I'll mark it there.
Brother Wilson? Why not 47?
So, when we read the quotation, they speak something to do with the seal of God being the Sabbath. But when we go to the book of Revelation 14:9, the third angel is speaking about the Sabbath. And the third angel came in 1844.
Okay, so when were they going to start publishing or start proclaiming the third angel? When in 1848? Sorry? Approximately. If we go back to the passage, it says just at that time, the Seventh-day Adventists were learning from the Scriptures that the Sabbath was the fourth commandment, was the sign or seal of the living God, and that the time had arrived for the proclamation of the sealing message, and they were devising ways of getting that message out. But the other people were saying, you're too late, because the battle of Armageddon is right upon us. How did they know the battle of Armageddon is upon them? How did they know the battle of Armageddon is coming right now? How do those people know that? Sorry?
The external events.
Which external events? So the revolution. So everybody sees the revolutions. They say this is Armageddon, and the Seventh-day Adventists saying we need to start proclaiming the third angel's message, the sealing message, and they're saying you're too late now. When did Ellen White have a vision, not only on the sealing message, but also on the proclamation of the sealing message? When she says, you better start publishing. When did she have the vision? Do you remember? So I'll go back to what we read. November 18th, 1848, this is what Bates says. We were at someone's house in Dorchester, and we were discussing about the sealing. Then Ellen White has a vision, and the vision that she has is the one we read, which was about that the Sabbath is the seal, and then at the end of that, she says, I've got a message for my husband that you need to start publishing. So that's why I drew that little diagram before. In the spring, what are they wanting to do in the spring? Proclaim the message. So I'm going to just put publish. They're trying to devise means. That means they're working out how to give this message out to the world. They haven't worked out how. But in the winter, Ellen White has a vision. And what is the vision in connection with? The publishing and? Publishing is proclamation. The publishing or the proclamation and of what? Sorry? Of the seal. So here, they realise it's the sealing message and they have to publish. So I'm going to put sealing and proclamation in the spring. They know that. Then later on, Ellen White has a vision. You agree with that? So first, they read it, and then she has a vision. So let's read what she said about that. She says, this is 274.1. She's not talking about this specifically, but I'm making an application. The testimony and the commandments are linked together. Yeah? This is 274 paragraph 1, third sentence. The testimony and the commandments are linked together. Do you agree with that? Which one's the commandment and which one's the testimony in this picture work? Which one's the testimony? That's the testimony, because that's what testimony is the spirit of prophecy, and the commandment is this one. Why are they going to publish? Because they read in Revelation 7 that they're supposed to do that. And then she says they cannot be separated. That comes first, the 10 commandments. So what comes first? The commandments or the testimony? Okay, so I'm going to say that the Bible comes first, than the testimonies. So even though she has the vision to explain what's going on, they're supposed to actually be doing this before. They work it out before. So if you come back to this one, and I'm asking, when are we going to lay a structure out? And your argument was, we'll pick 47 because that's when she has the vision. If we take that principle, what comes first? The commandments or the Bible or the testimony?
It's the commandment.
The commandments would come first. So if this is the testimony in 47, you'd expect the commandment to come before that. If you're happy with using that kind of logic. That she's in 47 rubber stamping it. And by the way, when is she keeping the Sabbath? So she's already keeping it. And what's she keeping it on what basis?
She's convicted.
Convicted from what?
From what we read.
From what she read. I know it's from base, but it's from the Bible. So it's from the commandment. So she's convicted from the commandment, and then she has a testimony on it to confirm that. So I think you can see the same idea. So I don't know if you're happy not to put 47. So what we still have to work out is why people are saying 48. In 274 paragraph 1, we spent a lot of time in there because I wanted us to see that she makes this point. It says, out of weakness it has become strong. And how has it become strong? From searching his word. So it first was in weakness, and then it becomes stronger because you study more and more in his word. And then you have a testimony to confirm it all. So when did it start off in weakness? He was well pleased when his law began to come up. When did it first come up? When was it in weakness? When was it cold? Like the sun, first cold. The truth rose up when there was but little light in it, but it has been increasing. So it's been increasing from when to when? When's the vision being given? 1848. So it's quite strong now. Loughborough says it was very well defined. So he expresses it this way. When did it start coming up? 44. So when does the sun begin to arise? It's 44, isn't it? So I only asked a few people, because the class is finished and I wanted to at least get this point in. Are we okay to say that we all agree that it's not 48? That it's 1844?
Yes.
It's in 1844 where they're making an application that this is going on.
Yes.
Then it says, I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth. What are the 4 winds? So the 4 winds is political strife. At least that. Saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in our foreheads. Who's keeping the Sabbath at the moment? When this vision is being given? Ellen White, all of them are, aren't they? All of these people are now doing that. So, if we were to mark 44, who's keeping the Sabbath in 44? It's only Rachel Fox. I think I might have led us astray over the last couple of days. Bates starts keeping the Sabbath in 45, not in 44. Just want to make sure. I should have said that. I wanted to say that at the beginning of the class. I've alluded to that he was already keeping the Sabbath in 44 and he wasn't. He keeps it in 45. I think, does he get it from Preble? I think he gets it from Preble. So here, no one is. By the time you get to 48, who's been sealed? Okay, let me rephrase it another way. Who's keeping the seal? Sorry? All of those Seventh-day Adventists. So if I put SDAs, are we okay to say that in 48 the SDAs are sealed? Just the way they're thinking about it. Yeah? They're keeping the Sabbath, and the Sabbath is the seal, and therefore, what are they not sealed?
They're being settled. Yeah, they're settled into that truth.
Yeah, but that's what we're saying the seal is. We're saying it's a settling into the truth intellectually and spiritually. But they're saying the seal is the Sabbath. If you keep the Sabbath, you must have the seal.
Also the Sabbath is a sign of sanctification. So if they were keeping the Sabbath at that time, it was a sign of the actual fact the seal of God cannot be placed upon those who are keeping. So if they are keeping the Sabbath at that time, it's showing that they have received the seal of God's approval.
So these angels who are holding back the four winds till his servants be sealed, who is that speaking about? Who are the servants who need to be sealed in verse 3? So this is the world, isn't it? I don't know if let's think about that. I want us to think about how Ellen White, these Millerites, are using Revelation 7. Because they're using it in a totally different way than we use it. It appears to me at least. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we give you praise and thanks for your goodness. As we bow before you on your preparation day, we ask that you would give us an opportunity to prepare us for your holy Sabbath, physically, mentally and spiritually. Lord, as we try to understand how